Got all that across.
So we're recording now, just to let everyone know.
Thanks, Alison. Screen keeping, I mean, we're all so used to Zoom now. A year ago, this would have been something that we need to talk about. But yeah, keep yourself muted if you can. If you're not contributing, and then we won't get the background noise, the Hoover or the kids. You might hear mine because I can't keep myself muted at the time. And following the event, we will be doing some, following the talks and following the Q&A, we'll be doing some work on a Google Jam platform. So that's where we'll be sharing our ideas, writing down what we do, what we talk about, and the pledges that we make at the end. But we'll talk a little bit about that afterwards. So I just want to introduce a couple of people in the room that are here every week. So Alison and Lucy are from Oak Tree Sustainable Living Centre. I can see at least one wave. Can't see Lucy, but I'm sure she's waving too. Based in Leeds.
I've lost your audio there, Pete. I'm not sure if I'm the only one.
That come back?
Yeah, it's back now. Lovely.
Did I get up to talking about Oak Tree and...
You said based in Leeds, and then it got lost.
I wonder why I did that. Yeah, based in Leeds, as a community project that we've been working with on some of the projects, but in particularly together with this project, and Ivana from St Nick's, the nature reserve in York. We'll also be hearing from her colleague as well about some of the mental health and the ecotherapy work they do there. So Kathy will be talking about that in a bit. So I think that takes us to bang on for the introductions. And at this part, we look at the pledges that we shared last week. We think about the pledges that we shared last month, I should say. And anybody that's got anything to say about what they looked at last month, the pledge that they made, was it easy, was it difficult? How's that come along? So we invite anyone who was here at last session or any of the sessions to talk about how they are taking action or how that's going on with the Jamboard stuff that we did last time. And if there's nobody who puts their hand up, I'm sure somebody from our team or our group will be able to share some of their experiences and align with that. Don't know if there's anybody.
I think Ivana's got something she wanted to share with us.
Oh, fantastic.
I have an update from Daryl, actually, who was actually one of the speakers at our January 1st session, and since has reported through our sort of feedback survey, which we'll be sending around. I'll be sharing the link later as well. So we're trying to, if people can't or don't want to talk about their pledge sort of publicly like this, then we have a little form that you can fill in, and anonymously, if you like to, just let us know what you've done, what you're planning to do, and that way we can sort of see how much of an impact these events are having, whether, you know, are we actually contributing to a zero carbon future. And Daryl has shared that since the sort of January session, he switched to microwaving rather than steaming his veg to reduce energy use, because microwave is the most energy efficient way of heating food. So that's one little take. And also, and I think that's a really nice one, he's changed his energy supplier to a renewable one, which can be quite a big step. So yeah, some good actions there.
Yeah, that's really key. I mean, this is one of the things I didn't realize about cooking, and the same if you're on a renewable energy tariff and you boil your water first before you boil it using gas, and little things like that that you can think about and take and bring with you can all sort of add up a bit, can't they, in terms of pledges that you make. Microwave's a good one. Fantastic. Well, yeah, I look forward to that coming through. And yeah, there's quite a lot of different ways now that we're sharing what is happening and sharing what we're pledging, making sure that we're bringing those forward with us after the evening and being able to connect outside this group and bring those things together. But looking at the time now, if there's nobody else who would like to say anything about their pledges, I think that's a great update anyway. We can move on to our first of tonight's speakers. So I've just lost my just lost my notes. I've got the gremlins tonight, haven't I? I've got the technical gremlins tonight, but I'm back on. So sorry, just before we start, I will introduce our 3 speakers up front, and then I'll get on with our first session, our first presentation with some slides. So tonight we've got Dr. Judith Anderson from the Climate Psychology Alliance, who's going to spend a few minutes talking about the work that they do. We have our very own Alison and Lucy Tomlin from Oak Tree, who are going to make their own presentation about a toolkit they presented. And we've got Kathy Sturges from St Nick's to talk about the ecotherapy unit that they have there and some of the work around that. So some fantastic sessions coming up. I should just share my screen. And Judith, you're first up. And hopefully that's coming through for everybody.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for inviting me, and it's lovely speaking to a group who basically are just down the cycle path from where I live. That's terrific. I'll say a little bit about the Climate Psychology Alliance, but I'm also going to speak very quickly, but hopefully effectively, who knows, about how we can stay reasonably sane while we're doing our best to address the climate crisis. The Climate Psychology Alliance is actually an international organisation, although it's based in the UK, but we've got members all over the world. And we, for 10 years, and for some of us even before that, we were looking at different aspects of different psychological aspects of the climate crisis, trying to understand people's denial and disavowal, understanding some of what drives some of the kind of greenwashing, but then much more recently doing work to understand and support people suffering from eco-anxiety and all its related cousins. And we run climate cafes. We offer a therapeutic support service with free sessions for activists. And we're also trying to engage more and more therapists to really help them understand that this is a pressing issue that they need to be aware of in their practice and respond sympathetically to. Sadly, there are still 1 or 2 therapists who will say, oh, you don't need to worry about this, or your feelings are disproportionate. But we're hoping to get and working very seriously to get some of the main psychotherapy organisations to include climate awareness in their trainings. So could I have the next slide, please? I want to briefly describe what was described by a couple of colleagues of mine, Ro Randall, she of Carbon Conversations, and Paul Hoggett did some interviews with climate activists, and they identified this journey starting with the epiphany. And we can all recognise that time when we woke up to what was happening with the climate or another aspect of environmental crisis. And we went from waking up to immersing ourselves. I can remember that point probably 15 or more years ago when I avidly read 6 Degrees by Mark Lynan and Hell and High Water by Alistair McIntosh and more, and talk to people. And we can all of us will recognise that state. And we also immerse ourselves in talking to others and trying to find our tribe. And and then for many, there's a kind of crisis, and that can arise sometimes through exhaustion or ill health. For some of the activists that Paul and Ro talked about, it happened after the failure, in quotes, of the Copenhagen of COP. Or when there's a major action that doesn't seem to go anywhere, like the attempt to close Drax, for example. There's a kind of crisis. And then people work out what it is they need to do to be sustainable activists, if you like. Because the problem is, it is an emergency, but it's a long emergency. And we have to find ways of treating ourselves sustainably. There's this kind of paradox where we talk about sustainability, but then we behave as if we don't have to be sustainable in the way we manage ourselves. And so there's a way in which we have to walk the talk. So can I have the next slide, please? So here are 5 do's, and there's going to be about 3 or 4 don'ts. So the 5 do's are to make room for all the eco emotions. If we get stuck in the grief, or we get stuck in the despair, or we get stuck in the anger or the anxiety, we're not going to be any good. Now, it's very easy to say don't get stuck, but what I mean by that is to allow all those emotions. We feel all those eco emotions because we care. And most of them, if we stay aware, will shift, will move. And if you like, these are the biodiversity of our emotions. We need to be able to know the grief and move through it, to know the gratitude. I'm thinking now, if we were actually at St. Nick's, the blackbirds would be singing and we would be delightfully serenaded. And then the next thing I am repeatedly talking to people about is radical self-care. Now, when we sit down quietly and reflect, we all know what it is we really need to do. And if we can get past well, I know I ought to, I ought to drink more water, I ought to do this. And if we can get below the ought to what I really know I need to do, absolute basics, masses of exercise, eating healthily, finding a balanced life, finding time for our activism and time for creativity. And I really recommend that people get a buddy with this, sit down and commit to each other, find an ally in radical self-care and keep doing that. It's not a once in a lifetime. I have a list in my kitchen or in a notebook that I need to do, and I amended it when we went into the first lockdown. What I knew I needed to do to get through being locked down. And linking to that, we need connection. Absolutely need connection, and of course this kind of meeting gives us connection. Setting boundaries is enormously important. It's part of self-care, but I want to name it on its own. Boundaries that help us set time boundaries, boundaries with not too much of the energy of other people if we need to step back. Setting boundaries is about saying no. And sometimes we're so tempted to say yes to everything. It's part of the burnout. And then know what your superpower is. And what I mean by that is that particularly when we're working with a group, all of us have some great talents, but sometimes we can all end up trying to do everything. And I think it's really important that we know what our gift is, know what we're really good at, and contribute that, and don't get tempted into trying to do what we're not so good at, but also respect other people's gifts. So that's what I mean by know your superpower. And then finally, there's a slide on don'ts. And there could be a lot of those, but don't forget to play. So dance, sing, laugh, sometimes with your fellow activists. We haven't been going to the pub much recently, but fun things on Zoom are possible. For goodness sake, please don't work late on screens. It absolutely disrupts your sleep and it fills your mind with catastrophe. And don't ignore the early signs of burnout. And just the final slide. Excuse me. The energy supplier Good Energy has a great article this week on eco-anxiety and how to build resilience to it by a colleague of mine. It is very lucid. I also recommend Chris Johnson and Joanna Macy's work on Active Hope. On the Climate Psychology Alliance podcast, everybody loves the podcasts. They love them all over the world, which is very nice. And the Royal College of Psychiatrists, if this concern comes up, has some excellent advice on eco-anxiety in children. And it's very, very non-medically model. It's absolutely about the systemic, serious problem that we're facing and how children's feelings are absolutely to be validated. So that's all I have to say, and I look forward to listening to the other speakers and questions.
Thanks so much, Judith. That was fantastic. And I've written a couple of notes. The long emergency, that wasn't something I've come across before. That makes so much, that's such a good way of putting it, because it's so urgent, but also that it's so taxing to try and do that over a long amount of time. That really made context. And don't forget to play. I'll take that one away as well. That's a great one. So I'm just going to quickly load up the next session from Lucy and Alison from Oak Tree.
While you do that, Pete, I just wanted to draw people's attention. Those two links that you mentioned, Judith, I've just popped those into the chat, so people can either copy them now, or we'll put those into the follow-up email like we do for any links that go into the chat. Sometimes tricky to get them out of the presentation and onto the thing, so do you
want me to do that from my version?
That's okay. I've just popped them into the chat there, so they're there for everyone. But I just wanted to draw people's attention to it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have time to scribble them down. I was thinking the same thing, because they all sound like really interesting reading at the end of it.
Yeah.
Right. Alison, Lucy, if you're both ready, we should all be set up. Just ask me when you flip the slides.
I think I'm going to go through this one, and Lucy's got a bit of a cold, so I'm going to save her unless she has to jump in if my little boy wakes up. So hopefully she won't need to do that. So hi everyone, as Pete says, I'm Alison Tomlin from Oak Tree Sustainable Living Centre. I think it's really, really interesting hearing from Judith. A lot of the stuff she talks about is sort of, there's a lot of crossover with what I was going to go through tonight. So just a little bit of context for what this is. Myself and my sister Lucy decided to put this toolkit together based on some feedback that we've had from our volunteers. So Pete, if you can just click onto the next slide for me, please. So we have a team, including ourselves, of about I think we're 10, just recently 10 volunteers now, doing various sort of projects around giving people advice on climate, on carbon reduction and tackling the climate issue in all different ways. And some of the feedback that we've had from our volunteers is this sort of path, I guess, that they found themselves on, that they have got to a point with, learning, picking things up in the media and talking to people. It's got to a point where they're sort of quite significantly worried about the planet and the climate and the environment. And so they've thought, right, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to take action and be proactive and get involved. So they've joined Oak Tree, which is, fantastic. And it initially sort of has made them feel very empowered and very positive, and like I'm taking matters into my own hands, and that's brilliant. And then we've sort of given them training in various different ways. Pete supported them through Speak Carbon training, and we've given them some other sort of information and learning to work through, and that has essentially been a real double-edged sword. A lot of them have sort of come to us and said, wow, I had no idea it was so bad, and now I'm even more scared. And we sort of thought, oh wow, that's, that isn't, I guess it wasn't really something we'd foreseen. It's difficult to know where people are on their journey when they join you, how much they already know, what their learning gaps are, all of that sort of thing. So we sort of thought to ourselves, right, well, we need to be supporting our volunteers and doing something about this. What are the things that we can do? That we wanted to put a toolkit together to help our volunteers get some resources, I guess, that they can pull from when they're struggling. And in doing that, we drew from our own experiences, things that help us. We also looked online, and one of the interesting things I kept coming up to when I was looking at how to deal with eco-anxiety and related issues was the first thing on the list was always get involved. And there weren't any lists that really acknowledged that this loop that you can get into, which is as soon as you get involved, it then that you've opened up to this world and you learn so much more, and it becomes so much more real and so much more scary. So I found that quite interesting, that there's a little bit of a lack of acknowledgement of that double-edged sword that you get when you're engaging in the green movement. But yeah, so because of that, we decided to put a toolkit together so that people could, so that we could help. And off the back of that and off the back of its success, we've now uploaded it to our website, so it's available for other organisations to use. It's basically a PowerPoint presentation with a few activities in it, and sort of some very detailed trainer notes, facilitator notes, so anyone can kind of deliver that training, whether it to be to their volunteers or paid staff maybe, or just friends, colleagues, whoever, people that feel like they're struggling and need that resource. So the I'm just pausing because I think my son might have just woken up. I'm just going to see if he's going to settle. He might be okay. So the toolkit itself, the last slide, if you can just move on to the last slide for me, please, Pete. Thank you. So this is the toolkit. So we've got 7 points on it, and it's really interesting to see the massive crossover with what Judith was saying. So I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail with it, but we're looking at things like the idea of optimism. There isn't really any point if you genuinely believe that there's no point in tackling the climate crisis, and there's no point in being in the green movement, and it's not a good place for people like that to be. It can sap a lot of energy, and it can be very counterproductive to have, we all have down days, and we all have times when we wonder what the future holds. But I think staying optimistic is absolutely vital, because there isn't really any compelling evidence out there to say that we can't fix it. And that is absolutely vital. I know that Judith, you mentioned setting boundaries, which I think is similar to the idea of unplugging. Not, do your work and engage when you need to, but don't kind of immerse yourself and make it so that you can't switch off. I know that Kathy's going to talk about spending time in nature, so I won't go too much into that. I'm just rushing through because Charlie has woken up. But yeah, I'm not going to go massively through the toolkit now, but it is on our website to download, which is just we can put that in the chat in a second. But one of the ones I wanted to pull out, which I think is one which is a really easy one to forget, which is figuring out what brings you joy. I think so many of us don't take time to think about what's important to us, why we enjoy it, and why we enjoy it. If it's going on fancy holidays brings me joy and I don't feel like I can do that anymore, pick out the bits of that. What is it about that you love, and can you do it in a different way? Can you find that joy somewhere else? Or whether it's shopping and you can do it secondhand, or whether it's, is the shopping actually because you're going out with your friends and spending time with people you love? Could you do that in a different, I think it's so easy for us to spend our downtime sitting looking at our phones or watching telly, because our minds are just so with it all. If you actually spend some time thinking, what is it that brings me joy, and try and fill your spare time with that, then that can be really powerful.
I'll take over. I think
I'm gonna. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to go through it all, but I am.
Yeah, that's fine. Just to I think that really links in really well with what you were saying, Judith, around playing. I think that's a very similar notion. Is it cooking? Is it dancing? Is it spending time with friends? And like Alison says, trying to draw out elements of things that you love, that now knowing what you know about the climate emergency. For example, I know somebody who's kind of said to me, I don't feel like I can go on a plane holiday ever again because I'll just feel too guilty. So it's about having that discussion, excuse me, it's about having that discussion around maybe every couple of years going on a longer holiday that involves a flight at either end, rather than 2 or 3 shorter holidays that involve a flight every year. It's about working things around and not beating ourselves up, because we're doing all that we can, really. But yeah, I feel like that's the end of our slot. Nicely timed, Charlie. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good example of how there are so many things that are going on around us while we're trying to do the best that we can. Quite often motivation, when people talk about motivation, to me it's around maybe future generations, or the generations to come, and while you're trying to bring them up and they're pinching on that, you might feel that there's even more on your plate. So yeah, I definitely think that things that bring you joy, that taking time to play, just puts you in a better place to be able to go and take the actions when you're ready to do it, if you've switched off properly. So I think that was fantastic. So that toolkit will be
that's on our website, and if anybody feels like they know anybody they would like to deliver it to, has volunteers, or would like to look at doing it in a community group and would like some support in terms of talking through it, then just get in touch. There's an info at Oaktree email address, and we'd love to hear from anybody and collaborate and share that resource. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so it's going to be a fantastic project. You put it together really quickly as well. I'm really impressed with everything else that you guys have got going on, that you've managed to do that as well. I'm going to be borrowing that. Sounds brilliant. So I'll just introduce you now to Kathy, who's our final speaker tonight. So yeah, you've had a couple of hints, sort of connection to nature and ecotherapy, but Kathy, I will hand over to you and just let me know when you want the slides moved over.
You need to unmute yourself, Kathy.
I can't hear you, Kathy. Is it on mute?
Sorry.
It's normally me. It's normally me.
Oh, I apologize. I'm Kathy. I'm Kathy Sturgis, and I work at St. Nick's, and I project manage the Ecotherapy Program there. And I'm here to talk to you tonight a bit about nature connectedness and how we promote that at St. Nick's. There are numerous studies, and certainly in the last year, but a growing evidence base about the importance of nature and the impact of nature on our well-being. Bit of good news, actually. I thought I'd start by sharing that the Humber Coast and Vale were awarded £500,000 to be one of 7 test and learn sites for green social prescribing, which is, you know, for me, a long time coming, and really important that there's an acknowledgement that green therapies, green interventions truly do help us connect to nature, the natural world, our communities. And in so doing, will have an impact and influence on the choices we make. Certainly, you know, tonight, a bit about how I'm going to focus how we can take care of ourselves as we face the challenges we do in the climate, with the climate. So I want to just take the next few minutes to talk a bit more about nature connectedness. And I came across, last week was Mental Health Awareness Week, and I came across this lovely little video. So Pete, it's just over a minute. If we can go to the next slide and just watch this next video on what is nature connectedness. A big word, I've heard it a lot in the last year, and I thought this sums it up quite nicely. Thanks, Pete.
Exposure to contact with nature, to an individual sense of their relationship with the natural world. Instead of being the pinnacle of life on Earth, be a part of nature. Because as humans, our story is nature, but our relationship with nature is broken. Since the dawn of human civilization, 80% of mammals have been lost, and now humans and livestock make up 96% of mammals on Earth. We need a new, connected relationship with nature. Nature connection is good for you. It plays an important role in a human's ability to function well and feel good. And it might come as no surprise that a decline in nature means a decline in our well-being and happiness. Move beyond facts, figures, and science and connect with nature through senses, emotion, beauty, meaning, and compassion.
Thanks, Pete. There's a lovely picture of St. Nick. So I really like that little video, and that it just talks a bit about nature connectedness and the 5 ways to do it. And the University of Derby do some great courses, some free courses actually at the moment now, that if anybody has any time to look into that and look into some of the courses, I do absolutely highly recommend what they're doing at the moment and how we can improve our nature connectedness. I'm going to talk a bit about how we do that. Derby, University of Derby, Annie. Sorry, I just saw a chat ping up. It's Derby. So yeah, but just a little bit about the Ecotherapy Program at St. Nick's and what is ecotherapy. Nature connectedness is really about our personal relationship with nature and the natural world and how we can nurture that. Ecotherapy is really an umbrella term for various nature connection initiatives, but they all promote good mental and physical well-being through outdoor activity in a natural environment. Ecotherapy at St. Nick's supports people to build their nature connection in a group setting with the support of experienced tutors, mental health mentors, and peer-to-peer learning. So we do that because I believe we can connect to nature creatively. There are a whole host of ways that we can connect to nature. At St. Nick's, I break it down into 4 areas. We have 9 groups running at the moment. We have what I call our muddy boot groups. There are things like conservation, we call it bearing fruit. Plot to plate is an allotment group, a gardening group called Get Gardening. We help people build their nature connectedness through creative groups like creative writing and arts, including nature journaling. Words from the Wild is our book club. We're starting a new willow weaving group. Have a look on site, that's coming at the end of June. Green exercise, really important at the minute. That's Nordic walking on site, but we've done outdoor yoga, Tai Chi, cycle group, mindful walking, and then also the education courses, things like Discover Nature, where we learn about the biodiversity on the nature reserve, and we're just starting a new bushcraft course as well. So that briefly, it's about those, is Ecotherapy at St. Nick's. We have those groups, and then they're supported by myself, a bit more supported from a mental health point of view. If anybody's struggling, then we meet and have nature-based walk and talks. Yeah, we're really proud of Ecotherapy at St. Nick's. It's one of the top 3 services for mental health in York. Programs funded by the lottery, and collaborates with lots of other organizations, including York St. John Discovery Hub, Converge. During the pandemic, we had to adapt the way that we worked, but we carried on throughout. We went online. The groups, the tutors, basically took their sessions and their groups online with activities, videos, blogs, and lots of well-being calls were made by myself sort of every week to keep going. Happy to report that we are back on site and have been since mid-April safely. And it's been wonderful to be back together and be part of that community. It's those connections. It's not just our nature connection, the social connection, I think, really does enhance that and our quality of lives. Next slide, Pete. So some of what I wanted to chat about, there's St. Nick's for those of you that haven't been. Nice blue sky behind it. I think Ivana took that picture. Photo credit to Ivana for that one. I wanted to talk a bit about looking after ourselves and how we can connect to nature. And sort of specifically, last week was Mental Health Awareness Week. And I sat on a panel with Time to Change in York, talking about nature connectedness and how we all did that as panelists. I just want to share some of that with you now. Local green spaces and places, and I can go on and on, but to name a few, the Ings and Strays in York, lots of them. Hesington Tilmire, local parks, we have the Foss, we have Beck's. Allotments are a great place to spend a bit of time and connect. We've got lakes, Rawcliffe Lake, Chapman's Pond, Fisherman's Pond, places like St. Nick's, the University of York, York Cemetery, and some of the wonderful talks that they give there, and bat walks, butterfly talks and walks. Fulford Golf Course, might not think of a golf course, but there's phenomenal wildlife in and around the golf course. The cycle paths, Askham Bog, Skipworth Common, I could go on. I think through conversation with others and like-minded people, find out your neighbors, your colleagues, your family's favorite place, favorite green place, local green place. I think particularly after this last year, a lot of people have discovered things right on their doorstep. Get in conversation and share those places. There's technology. We can connect with technology. There is something about a digital disconnect, which I'll talk about in a minute, but we can use technology to really help our learning and what we do. There's ID apps. I have a plant app and a birdsong app on my phone. I think they can be wonderful tools. Nature programs. I read a really interesting article that we sometimes can be more connected by watching a nature documentary than going outside for a walk. If we're in our heads when we're walking and not paying attention to the nature and world around us, we aren't as connected as we are, say, when we're watching a focused nature documentary. Nature playlists, geocaching is an excellent way to get out and about. Lots of websites. Live Well York, really, for local kind of initiatives. I'm aware that Alison and Lucy are both in Leeds, but look at your local council. There are some fantastic sharing about parks and what's going on, talks in parks, the National Trust, Citizen Science, Zooniverse. Google these things. They're really fantastic opportunities as individuals, as groups, with your family, if you've got young children. Coming away now, the digital disconnect, ways to connect with nature, something we do at St. Nick's called a sit spot. And the idea of a sit spot is you just find a green space for 10 minutes and you engage all your senses, focused, go through all of your senses, really notice what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, depending on where you are. These can be really grounding, focused, quality 10 minutes in nature, and build on it. Pick different spots to just sit and be present. Nature journaling is another thing that you can do to just notice the seasons, hugely important, and how you collect maybe leaves or sketching, writing, photography. Fill it with whatever you like. It's your own personal journal of noticing nature in the world around you. A colleague and somebody who's here tonight, who joined me on the panel, talked about her daily commute, which has been the most wonderful idea, and it's inspired me. In this last year of lockdown, working from home, she didn't let that stop her and actually had a commute and got up every morning and had a walk and walked herself into work and then walked herself again when she was done. And on her morning commute, she waved at neighbors. She made friends with people who from their windows noticed her and they waved. It was that social connection, that building of relationship, hugely important. I was so inspired by that. Cycling, gardening, but again, I say, kind of out of our minds as much as possible. Bring yourself into what you're doing in your garden or on your bike. Be aware. We are really blessed in York with some phenomenal organizations. Some of the things I've said we can do by ourselves, but some of us are more inspired by groups. Move the Masses, Bike Bells, Ramblers. There's volunteer gardening opportunities at all the parks, Roundtree Park, I know specifically, health walks, Good Gym. St. Nick's has lots of volunteering. Find out what's happening locally. If you are more motivated to spend time outside with a group, then do look. Great opportunities year round, not just spring and summer. Other things we can do, houseplants, really important. Feed your birds, plant your own herbs. Do some of those national initiatives like the Great British Bird Watch or the Big Butterfly Count that's coming up. Take part in those things. I think they're hugely important. I've talked way over. I'm sorry, my 5 minutes turned into 10. I think that's it, but I can take any questions at the end. Thank you.
That was fantastic. I could have probably listened to that all night, to be honest. There was so much in that. There's some amazing bits in there. I think, listening about the sort of science catching up and that beginning, people are really beginning to be able to demonstrate it. Like I read papers about trees in hospital windows, meaning people recover better, and that's documented, and it's all beginning to get there, isn't it? Which is so exciting, because it must be really exciting for you anyway to see that it's really beginning to capture people. And watching a documentary can connect with nature. I had never thought of that before. It made so much sense when he said it, but it just never crossed my mind. I do definitely get that experience, that journey experience. Right, so we've still got plenty of time for questions. So just under 20 minutes. And I think, Ivana, have you been maybe capturing a few bits, or are we going to open this up to the group for anyone who has anything?
So I haven't spotted any actual questions in the chat yet. So I think we'll probably just take questions from the floor, if that's all right. So people can either you can put a question in the chat if you'd rather not speak, just start the chat thing with a Q, maybe just to make it a bit easier for me, or if you want to raise your hand either physically or in the participants list, you can there should be an option there to do so.
Well, while any questions are coming in, I've got one that I could put across to the group if that got the ball started. I mean, I've got that thing that I can't switch off very well. I'm not quite sure what to do, whether to block some time out in my diary or how to give myself that cue to switch off. Is there anything from what you guys have been speaking about that would help with giving you that routine and switching off? Would you this on?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's different. For me, I have a Spotify playlist that's my calm evenings playlist, and if I start putting that on about 9 o'clock rather than watching, catching up on Line of Duty or whatever is your poison, it's almost like there's a habitual response of calming, and I'm much more likely to sleep. So I think there is something very, very powerful about ritual. And, ritual might be going for a 10-minute walk. It might be doing, rather than your commute, your kind of wind down, or it might be something as banal as doing the washing up. So when you come down in the morning, it looks nice, but doing it very slowly and mindfully. Whatever you're doing, do it slowly and mindfully, but create rituals. But I'd be very interested to hear what Kathy and also Lucy and Alison say.
Yeah, I absolutely, completely agree with you, Judith. It does help embed those habits and those routines. And yeah, I completely agree. I do. And there's evidence to back that up as well, as we know, certainly. Yeah. I think the key is finding your way to unwind and relax and learn and focus, and that you can do that in so many different creative ways. It is very personal to you. I talked a lot about nature connectedness tonight and ways that you can connect to nature, and hopefully find that to relax, calm, notice. Yeah, agree.
It's fantastic. I want to get on building my calming playlist. That's a really good idea, actually, isn't it? Because it's got something you can go and you can do, and then you're in a different space. That's a really good one. Yeah.
We've got something on the chat that says from Claire, who says that her place of work encourages performance energy to take time doing something you love that brings positivity, putting it into your working diary. That's a really brilliant workplace you have there, Claire. What an amazing thing. I think it's similar to what we was talking about in the toolkit, isn't it? It's that thing of not just making time for doing the things that you love, but actually knowing what those things are. And it may be that you feel like, oh, it's nice to just relax by just sitting in front of the telly and zoning out, but actually you could be used, people say, oh, I haven't got time to read, I haven't got time to cook, I haven't got time to do this, that and the other, but we all have time to spend a ridiculous amount of time watching telly every week when you add up the hours. And it's like, what could we be doing that's actually more sort of enriching, I guess? And it's sort of, and I often think it's the thought of thinking, oh, I said I was going to do that thing tonight, whether it be read a book or do some colouring or whatever the mindfulness thing is. It's the gap between saying you're going to do it and doing it, which is the hardest thing. Once you've started it, it's actually lovely and wonderful, but it's getting from that, oh, I said I was going to do that, but oh, I'm just going to sit in front of the telly because it's easier. Just making that leap, isn't it? And actually using your time wisely to actually give your head the space it needs, I guess.
I think this links nicely to a question that Srish, I'm really sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, has just put in the chat. It's sort of, I'm not sure if there's a lot more tips, but saying doing PhD, which can the content can feel quite disheartening. So you find find themselves avoiding it. So any tips to stay on task during slumps where you don't feel like you want to or can be facing them would be appreciated. Don't know if there's anything to add to what we've talked so far.
I think building a bit on what Judith was saying about routine, things we can't. Sorry, I don't know with that. Another message just came up in the chat.
Well, that's a quote. That was just a quote on top, I think.
Oh, I see. I see. The question is really about how to combat. Is it sort of procrastinating? Is that what I understand about the things that we just don't want to face? Having a commitment, like getting through your PhD, is something, you know, that you've already done, and you know, I think it's sort of how you manage that commitment. We talked about balance at the beginning. Judith talked about balance. Balance in life is so important. Finding set times when you do your work, again building on what Judith said, having that routine, making sure that you get out and you bring balance to it, changing, coming away from your screen, whether that's having a walk or enjoying a nice cup of tea, doing some cooking, and then sort of going back to it. I think that could be quite helpful.
Judith, did you?
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time thinking about disconnect and dissociation and see it always as bad. And a lot of the time it is very problematic. But I also think that some of the time there's a kind of functional disconnect that we need to find, where we somehow manage to park our emotions or find another space for them while we get on with this enormously creative work you're doing, Srish, on barriers to sustainable consumption. And it's almost like holding in mind a kind of vision of what your research is going to achieve, despite the fact that actually what you're discovering through your research is really depressing, but that you are creating a piece. And I really liked what Debbie said about sort of splitting the bits of your work into the horrid bits and the bits you'll enjoy, and finding a balance. Just really, you know, hit the difficult bits with some kind of energy, and tell one of your study buddies that you've done it. And but I think we are allowed not to be feeling all the time, and I think that's quite important. That's what I mean by a kind of functional dissociation. We're allowed to.
Yeah, I think just allowing yourself that break as well. If you're really struggling, just do something else, because you're not gonna do anything productive. Just let yourself avoid it for a bit, I guess, and like they say, do something you enjoy for a bit. And be kind to yourself about
it. There was another question early on, actually, from Claire, about resources for signs of burnout would be great. So we've touched on these things a bit already, but if there's anything to add. Maybe Judith?
Well, I think by and large everybody's going to have their own signs if they sit very quietly and reflect. For me, I know when my sleep gets disturbed that's problematic. Not being able to switch off, avoiding difficult jobs, that sort of thing, and then often some kind of physical collapse, which may be major but might be minor, you know, catching lots of colds or something like that. Stress affects our immune systems, and so does playing with grandchildren. That's why you get colds. She said, sniffing away. Yeah, so I think everybody's got their own. It's a question of really knowing yourself from past experience, going back thinking, when did I burn out before? Okay, what was going on then? What are the situations that lead to it? Could I have picked it up earlier? We get to a point where we don't ask for help in small ways and big ways. So that's often a sign that we're burning out, because we're just not seeing the big picture, that we need to get help. And I don't mean just help in terms of mental health help, but help with a job. I'm very lucky. I work with a team of 3 women, and we are really so good. We've got a culture where if one of us is struggling with a piece of work, we email and say, look, I'm really struggling with this. Can we have a powwow about it? And that makes such a difference with the work I do.
Yeah, I guess if you surround yourself with people that know you really well, then they're maybe going to recognise those signs of burnout potentially before you do, aren't they? So you can be each other's mirrors, as it were, and you know, you don't have to kind of advocate for yourself. I guess you can have those people to speak up for you when you're not able to do it for yourself.
Kathy, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think another way, I totally agree with what Judith and Alison just said, but it's about recognizing the signs of burnout, is that you know, often that there is a shift, there is a notable shift in your levels of joy, you know, that you really are on autopilot and just not connecting to a variety of things across your day. I think that is a real sign. And then very slowly bringing your awareness to those things, picking the things that you can focus on and build on. And that will ultimately have a ripple effect. You know, burnout, I think we sort of assume burnout with work, but we can be burnt out with life and the situation and some very specific topics. You know, we're talking about the climate crisis tonight. So really checking in with what area of life you perhaps are feeling burnt out in. Is it one? Is it having an effect across your life? Spend a bit of time answering some questions for yourself, I think I would say. And then you'll know probably the next best steps. Get some help to help you figure out the next best step. But the first thing is to figure out where your burnout is coming from. Is it purely work? Is it life? Is it with passions and interests, activism? Think about where it's coming from as a first step. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we've gone through the questions in the chat, but Claire McMahon, did you have a question early on?
No, I didn't, but I've just as you've been thinking, Kathy, just as you've been talking, Kathy, thinking of a question about are you seeing sort of a rise and you know, particularly after COVID and people getting through that mentally, and then it feels like, you know, the overwhelming kind of climate crisis as well to tackle that next. Like, you know, it feels like crisis after crisis, and like, you know, you're seeing an overwhelming interest in kind of nature-based ecotherapy kind of methods to help with you know, help people in their mental kind of state at the moment.
Absolutely, I've seen an increase. You know, ecotherapy, we've been running it for, gosh, 6 years, 7 years now at St. Nick's. And initially it was really helping people make that initial connection with nature, building that relationship. And it's quite addictive when you get into it, isn't it? It's, you know, there are lots of ways we can connect and notice. It connects us to communities. But the more we do, I think Judith talked about this, maybe Alison even a bit, and the more we get into it and understand it and the state of the planet and what potentially is happening, that is a real fear. Certainly in this last year, I have seen all sorts of people get involved, contact me, ways to ground themselves. Climate crisis is is something that's talked about a lot more, and certainly a lot more since over this last year, remotely, when we were working remotely, and now that we're kind of back on site. Yes, I am, and I am seeing an increase, definitely. And how do we manage that? We be in our moment at St. Nick's, we notice the nature around us, we learn about it, we support each other through it, we capture it in lots of different ways. Lots of learning, lots of support. And a lot of people have gone on to do various things, you know, as their nature connectedness builds and takes different routes for people as they move on and explore different avenues. I've seen a lot of that as well. I hope I answered your question there, Claire. Yes, there's been a big increase.
Yeah, I mean, one of my concerns is you know, I have young children, and you know, like my son, and I'm not, I mean, I obviously recycle a lot and reuse a lot in the home anyway, but he suddenly has got a passion for, like, you know, not throwing anything away, and, you know, we can reuse that. And I don't know whether he picks up on my anxiousness, you know, and you know, there's probably a growing concern amongst children about and how we can help children with perhaps some of their eco anxieties that they may have, and, you know, they pick up on conversations adults are having, and yeah, how to help them through it as well, because it's their future and you feel an obligation to, like, do more. Yeah, so
Yeah, I think by learning about nature, there's a mutual respect, isn't there? And for children in particular, you know, really understanding the relationship, what we can do for nature in the natural world, and in turn what it does for us. I think very simply that message with children is a bit more focused and a bit more the psychology of children at a younger age. I think that's powerful. That's certainly my experience of working with younger people. It is that first and foremost. It's the how we can look after the world around us, and in turn how it looks after us. That mutual respect can be really powerful for children and help them navigate.
Great. So there's a difficult question from Debbie. But I don't really want to end on that one, maybe. But what about all the wars going on and the injustice of them and of the climate crisis? Seems to me it's not always about connecting with nature, but also connecting with other people, thinking about their lives. And certainly, yeah, I don't know if someone wants to pick it up. I think, you know, the two go together, really. I think if there's a lot of talk about just transition, sort of going for renewables, but of course all the materials for the renewables have to come from somewhere. You have to be considering the people who make solar panels as well as actually putting them on your roof. So yes, there's a lot there. Does anyone else who would like to pick that one up?
I mean, I don't think there are any easy answers to it. It's definitely something the Green Movement is trying to and massively needs to address more fully, is the not only the sort of disparity between, and this obviously isn't something just the Green Movement needs to look at, but the disparity between who's causing the problems and who's going to be most affected by them and soonest affected by them. But also, you know, within the Green Movement, the lack of diversity and the lack of representation from diverse communities. And I think that, yeah, climate justice is it has to be at the heart of everything we as activists do, I think, and it's a really tricky one, but we've just got to keep plugging away and keep trying and keep finding those connections to draw people into the movement and draw yeah, and I think you know, there is no answer to the fact that but I think the takeaway is that the issues that are causing the climate crisis, a lot of them are being caused by the same people, or the same kinds of people who are causing the issues that are, you know, the wars and everything. And so fixing one thing will inevitably change the other things as well. You know, the world's a very unjust place, and if we are to, it's not like the climate crisis is the only thing that's wrong with the world and everything else is brilliant. There's a lot of stuff we need to change, a lot of stuff that's not right. So you know, the future that we can look at, if we do manage to turn the tide, as it were, we will inevitably need to fix a lot of the other injustices and inequalities at the same time. You know, one thing can't be fixed without the other. They're all inextricably linked. But yeah, no sort of clear answers there, I'm afraid. I think if we did have it, we could bottle that and cause and solve a lot of problems, but maybe not tonight.
Fantastic. I think that was a positive enough end to it. But I think, yeah, it's another. I mean, there's so many fascinating lines of questions that are coming throughout all of this. Again, I think we could probably chat about it all week. I'm finding it really healthy to hear about it, listen to about it, and talk about it in this way. They're all my favourite sessions, but this is definitely one of my session that I feel that I'm getting quite a lot out of personally as well. And there's a lot of work to be done. I think a huge amount of work to be done, and a huge amount more to learn about. So we're going to move on now, and this is a little bit different to how we normally do it. So I'm not quite so sure if we know how this is going to work exactly, but we move on to this part to get into groups, and we make pledges around what we've heard. We can make pledges about anything, normally climate related. But tonight we're going to make some pledges between ourselves to look after ourselves and look after the people around us. And I'm really interested to see what we come up with. So just to let you know how it works, Alison's just posted in the chat a Jamboard link. So I'm going to break you up into breakout room groups. If somebody, hopefully somebody in those groups would have clicked on that Jamboard, and you'll come up with a web page where you can type some post-it notes in. And as a group, have a chat about what you've heard tonight, but see if you can come up with a couple of posts that you can pop on along with your name if you want to onto our board. About well-being, about the things that you're going to do after hearing from all the wonderful Q&As and presentations that we've had tonight. And I really looking forward to see what we come up with. So I'm just going to pop us into rooms of about 3 or 4 people or so, because that should work out quite nicely in being able to chat. Hopefully everyone's got that, but we'll be popping into the rooms to make sure that somebody can open that up and everything's working right. I think we're ready to go. Got a thumbs up. And you should be able to see all the rooms open up now.
Hi, Kathy. I'm assuming it's not just me and you. I think you're on mute. I think it might automatically put you on mute when you go into a room.
It must do.
Have you?
How was that? Was that all right, Alison?
Yeah. I mean, I was a bit sort of because I came in halfway through having settled Charlie. So yeah, but I think people seem to be getting quite a lot out of it. So it's really brilliant. It's really good.
I hope so. It's so difficult to talk about what we do in 5 minutes. I could go on and on. In any event,
it's just like a little taster, isn't it? So people can come and find out more if they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
oh, we have Venus with us.
Hi, Venus. Can you hear us? Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Nice to see your real face. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, good.
I'm not sure how many rooms Pete's made, and therefore how many people are in each room. But do one of you guys want to get the link that share your screen with the Jamboard, or do you want me to do it, or what's the best thing to do?
I seem to have lost the chat actually.
Okay.
I don't seem.
Should I share my screen and then I can pop some bits on if you
Yeah,
guys want
super.
to say.
Yeah, great.
Do you have any? Can you see that? Can you see the sticky note?
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
So I'll be scribe if you like. If you guys have any, if you want to be bold and make some pledges on what you think you're going to do. This is a nice one because normally it's things like, things you're going to change to cut your carbon, but this time it's just nice things to do for yourself.
I would like to get back to my early morning walk along the river, start my day breathing.
Was that your commute in the old days?
Yeah. Yeah. Or just, well, I was on my bike to St. Nick's, but yeah, get back to taking my early morning walk along the river. Yeah. Yeah,
Sounds
that
like
I
a
just
great
find
idea.
that's yeah, before work, exactly that. And you can put Kathy on that. I just find that very, very grounding and really yeah, really important to my well-being, and I've come away from it.
It's so easy to not do that, isn't it, when you're not actually properly commuting, to just kind of feel like it's a good thing that you can take advantage of just getting straight into work, but actually it's yeah, double-edged sword, isn't it? How about you, Venus?
I want to be like can be sleep before midnight.
Yes,
can
that
wake
is
up
such a good
early.
one. Yeah, get to sleep. Is that get to bed or get to sleep before midnight, like actually properly asleep?
If I want to sleep before midnight, I need to get to bed 11. Then I have an hour on that. Then prepare mentally to sleep.
Yeah, but then it's the
good.
temptation of making sure you don't spend that time looking at a screen, because then you try and go to sleep and you just lie there awake, don't you? So yeah,
Maybe reading or doing something else, but yeah, then I can. So if I sleep early, then it helps my mental health, and also I can wake up early to do to do a morning walk or something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so because I think there's almost a part of us, for me, certainly a part of me, there's still that kid going, I can stay up late if I want to. I want to stay up late, especially when you've had a really busy evening for whatever reason, and your evening of relaxing may only start at like not 9:30 or something. You think, right, I want an evening, I'm going to stay up, but actually you're just depriving yourself of a good night's sleep, aren't you? Absolutely. So as I should do one, really, shouldn't I? I really like that going to bed early one. I keep saying that and I never actually do it. Yeah, I got into a really good habit before the rain came, essentially. I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but in Leeds it feels like it's done nothing but rains for the whole of May. But before that, I got into a really good habit of cycling loads and loads, like going to the shops on my bike and just for exercise, just cycling. And since the rain's come, I've just not been doing it as much, and I feel like I really need to get back into that.
Yeah, biking is good.
It's such a joy, but it really isn't a joy when it's raining. But I am going to write that.
Do you guys live in UK or US?
UK, yeah. UK. So we're in different cities in the same county. So we're both in Yorkshire. But yeah, Leeds and York. But yeah, where are you?
I'm in Orange County, California.
Oh yeah, it's so brilliant to hear people from different. I think this is the first session we've done that's had people outside of the UK on it. I don't know how it's got out into the world more than it normally does, but it's so fantastic to have people from the US here. It's really exciting.
Because I know this workshop from my school. I'm a member of a sustainable department. So they send me the newspaper, newsletter.
Yeah.
Month. So this is the workshop, they put it in the news.
Okay.
Very good. Very good.
Wow, that's really good.
I just have a friend who immigrated to UK this week.
Whereabouts have they moved to? Do you know?
Yeah, let me pull out the message because I don't know that city. I need to look at the spelling.
Yeah. We do have some weird pronunciations in this country.
Right. Okay, it's a then SUTH South, then it's AMPTO.
Southampton. Yeah, Southampton. So that's right in the south. It's on the south coast of the country. So we're sort of we're north. We're definitely north, aren't we, Kathy? But not as north as you can get. Within England, we're quite far north. But then obviously there's Scotland above us, which means that in the whole body of the UK, we're about in the middle. Would you say that's right, Kathy? Roughly?
Yeah, definitely.
And Southampton's right on the south coast, like right on the sea at the bottom of the UK and the English Channel.
Oh yeah. Oh, it makes sense.
To us, that's really far away, but to you in the US, that's nothing. It's like just down the road.
Eventually, I will visit them because I've never been UK before. I've been a couple of times in Italy and France, but never in UK. So now I have a reason to visit.
Nice.
You should come up and see us as well. You should totally. You should come up to. I mean, I keep meaning to. When the world gets back to normal, I'll definitely be taking a visit to St Nick's. It sounds like such an amazing place, and I never even heard of it before I got involved in this project. So it'd be lovely to.
We should connect it. We should connect it on Instagram or whatever you guys.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, well, find us. Oak Tree. We're all over. So yeah, have a look and stay in touch. Yeah. I'm just just having a look at these other pledges that are popping up as well and seeing if it's
Yeah.
I really like the idea of this, the ritual, what Judith was saying about almost training your brain to know when you hear these certain songs or do these certain things, this is the time to wind down and be calm and be relaxed. I really like that idea of having that kind of program, I guess, or that ritual of activities to do to switch off and be like, right, I'm not thinking about anything scary or upsetting. I'm just going to have my lovely playlist, and whether it's a bath or a particular meal or a book or whatever, I'm just gonna wind down. I really like that idea.
When you guys talking about the connected to nature, I think of Jamie Oliver, and one of the episode he was cooking inside the forest. So it's a guy to told him which kind of mushroom he can eat, so he can just cook it inside at the forest. It's like a camping thing. So it's like so cool.
Yeah, that's what a lovely combination of the joys of cooking and of being in nature. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Hi, Pete.
I was a bit lonely in the main room. I knew that you already had. I visited all the other rooms, but I knew you were probably being well stewarded by Alison anyway. But obviously getting on.
Yeah, no, I'm just enjoying seeing all the other pledges popping up, but we've done a couple of ourselves as well. I need to sign mine actually. I realise I've just been really unaccountable there. How about you, Pete? Are you making any pledges tonight? Have you done any?
I've already got one up. Yeah, I'm going to make my playlist. I thought that was a
that's you. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I really like that idea we were saying of that sort of programming your mind to know that now it's time to calm down and switch off. And yeah, it's really good. Yeah, good stuff.
It's working well. We've got quite a few new people tonight, so they're a bit new to the pledging system. I've just told them to chat and connect, and I think that's gone down really well as well. I think
you've got, Venus is from, where did you say, Orange County? Is that California? Yeah, and a couple of other people from America as well. I'm not sure how we've managed to reach out with this session more than with others, but we've got some international participants, which is fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. I think, and that's the nice thing about thing. I mean, I find this about the whole climate scope. I did a couple of sessions and had someone from Australia and Amsterdam on, and we can be connected globally around all these situations. They're happening to all of us at the same time, and I take a bit of comfort in that. The fact that that my individual action is actually being done all over the world, and I don't even know it. So it empowers you, and it's nice to know that we're all sort of connected in that way.
I think the pandemic's done that as well, hasn't it? Showed us that we're all, I know a lot of people talk about that phrase, we're all in the same storm but not in the same boat, and I think that is worth remembering. But we are all in the same storm, and we do all now have this one thing that we've all experienced in different ways, and that we can, anyone who's alive during these couple of years will remember to an extent, or be told about if they were too little to remember. And hopefully we can take that feeling of solidarity and that feeling of connectedness forward and use it in positive ways within the green movement as well, hopefully. Just need to turn it, just to transform it from one thing to another. Yeah.
I'm going to go and pop into the main room because I'm going to call everyone back in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
So cool. I shall see you on the other side.
Yeah.
I read a really interesting article, just a couple of things. One with the sort of focusedness around nature connection, and it was, that you can watch a David Attenborough documentary, a nature documentary, and just how much more connected you were because you were immersed in it. And there was alongside this article that this last year globally, nature footage, nature cameras. So I watch the ospreys in Wales. I know there's one. I don't know what they have in America at the minute, Venus, but we have a television show here called Spring Watch or Autumn Watch, and they have cams on wildlife. And do you know, globally, 2,000% increase on people regularly watching cameras around the world of nature. 2,000 increase in 2020. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, we need to capture that interest, and you know, all these people that have realized they care and they want these ospreys babies to hatch, or they want those frogs to get to the pond, or whatever it is, and they actually care about that. We need to connect the dots to them and say, well, then you need to do this. Those will not be here anymore if we don't take this action. It's all about making those connections with people, I think, isn't it? But
it is.
I think David Attenborough does that better than anyone, doesn't he? Because everyone knows him as the nature guy and the one who's knowledgeable about animals, and he's had all these amazing experiences and stuff. But and for him to now be speaking out about the climate crisis and sort of saying, I've seen this, and I know the world, and I've seen it change over these years. I think that it's one of the most powerful spokespeople we have, really, isn't he? Yeah,
absolutely, he is.
Yeah,
and much more vocal kind of with each passing month, which hugely important. Pete's giving us 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just trying to think if there's any more pledges, really. I think
also we have it remind me, one of the Facebook page is aquarium, and they start the camera for jellyfish in last year in the lockdown area, the lockdown time, and a lot of people join that group because this is so relaxing and healing to look at the blue light.
They just kind of float around.
It's so satisfying, like smooth and slow movement. And
they are the weirdest things.
Lovely. Nice.
Really sort of soporific almost, isn't it?
Yeah, really lovely.
It's so weird though. They look like something not of this earth. They look like something out of a science fiction novel, I always think, jellyfish, especially like the see-through ones, and they're weird. In a good way. Right, I think we're going back in now, guys, so I'll see you.
We're going back in. See you on the other side.
Bye.
Hi guys, you're first back, so I think everyone's going to start to filter back through. Alison, are you able to share your screen when it comes up with the Jamboard?
Yeah, I was in the group, but it's obviously not translated to back out here, so I'll do that now.
Perfect.
Gonna make my sister fuss with all my open tabs now.
Sorry, Claire, we got cut off.
I know, we were mid-flow as well. I've forgotten to put my name on my post-it as well on the Jamboard. I wrote other people's names and didn't write my own, sorry.
I'm on it now, Luce. Which one was yours?
The one that ends with love guilt-free.
Do you know what? I thought that was you. Just the way it was written, I thought, I bet that's Lucy.
I didn't want to think we were related.
That's fantastic. I got to sort of come into some of the sessions that didn't already have hosts in, and have we weren't quite sure like how our pledge would work. It's slightly different, I suppose, when you're able to pledge around, I will do this or I'll do that, and maybe we feel slightly different about making pledges about ourselves, or about looking after ourselves, about looking after other people. But that's what tonight has all been about, hasn't it? Making that time to do that. And it's been enlightening for me. I think at the beginning of the session, I was in that position that you'll get to when you're feeling a bit stressed and a bit chewed up. And I actually feel quite a lot better now. So it's worked for me anyway. I hope it's worked for everybody else as well. Thanks for sharing that up, Alison. So we can go through at this point some of the pledges that we put on. I would say if you weren't able to access the Jamboard, or you want to add something on, please pop it into is that maybe what Ivana said? Please pop that into the comments box, and we'll make sure we collate all of those together and put it into one board and share that out with everyone. But yeah, we've got creating regular self-care rituals. That's a bit in line with mine. I was going to do the playlist that I was, that was one of the responses to my question. I think that's a great one. More time in the garden. So that's ecotherapy right at home, isn't it? I think that's pretty well linked to maybe what some of us have found during the lockdown, you know, that we've, and Kathy brought it up, that we've started to discover spaces that we maybe didn't know were there before. And actually mine's in my garden. I didn't really appreciate that space in the way that I do now, and amongst others as well. More meaningful time. Yeah, I love that one. And that's important because particularly if we're sort of darting about climate change action for other people, for our family or for future generations, it's a bit of a shame if we don't spend really good time with them at the same time to make sure that we're balancing that out. And go to sleep before midnight as well. That's a good one. I remember Sting from the Police saying that was his secret to looking so good, if you think that he does, that he always woke up and went to bed in the same day. Apparently that's the key. So probably good for your mental health as well. Fantastic.
Yeah, I just wanted to draw attention to what Judith put in the chat. I think it's really easy to sort of want to, you know, we feel like we're doing all this stuff and it's for us, but it's also for the future and the future generations. And you think, oh well, you know, I've got to focus on them, and it's not about me, it's about them. But we as you just said earlier, it is a long fight, and we're not, even if you just want to look at it from a very practical, this isn't, you know, harsh on yourself point of view, we're not going to be able to do what we need to do if we burn out. We're not going to be able to keep fighting the good fight if we don't look after ourselves. So, you know, people who may think self-care, oh, that's just indulgent and it's not for me and I can just carry on. Don't do it for your own sake, then do it for someone else's sake, because you won't be able to be an effective activist or whatever it is that you're doing if you do burn out. And if you do, you know, you might get a load done in the next couple of years and then that'll be it, you know, rather than being able to keep going for however long it takes, essentially, because yeah, it is a long fight. So we don't need to feel as guilty about it and it's indulgent and I haven't got time and I need to spend my time doing activism and not having a nice bath. See it as activism because it's all part of the thing, isn't there? I'll put the link back up again now, Debbie. Hang on. Doing it now.
I'm just chuckling, Al, because I said in my breakout room that I feel pressure to have to enjoy baths because everyone says they're good self-care, and you've just given them a shower on. It's one of the things that we massively differ on. Yeah. Oh, yeah, really. Can't be doing with it. Cannot be doing with a bath.
I can't think of anything worse. Oh, good. There's some more stuff going onto the board. That's brilliant. Is that working now, Debbie? That link. Have you managed to get on? Sometimes it can be a bit temperamental. Oh, it doesn't look like you're on mute, but I can't hear.
How to put anything on it?
Okay, well, do you want to pop it in the chat and I can stick it on for you if you like?
Yeah,
happy to do that. Yeah, if anyone's.
And I can't see how I can write in it.
Has it got a list down the left hand side of little icons? If it hasn't,
yes, but they're very tiny.
Okay, well if it's easier, just literally pop it into the chat and I can stick it on for you. That's no problem.
Below the arrow, there's a sort of little square symbol. That's the sticky note. You need to click on that. But we'll leave the board open tonight. Mm-hmm. So if you feel inspired after you've gone away, you can still add to it later on, so don't feel rushed.
I love the idea of weeding as meditation that Annie's put on. I've got so much weeding to do in my garden and I keep looking at it and going, oh god, so maybe I should see it.
Yeah. Me too.
I can see it out of my kitchen window and I just think, oh, stop looking at me weeds.
Yeah, finding some other water to make it to make into your bath instead. I love that one as well.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea, isn't it? Yeah.
So that just leaves, I think, unless anyone else has got anything to bring tonight's session to a close, which I've really enjoyed tonight. I think it's been great to bring everything out. Some fantastic presentations, talks about what people are doing and the way that we can connect and the way that we can look after ourselves. The idea of an oxygen mask, so looking after ourselves so we're better able to look after other people. I think is another great takeaway. So yeah, the board will stay up. You can email us so we can bring it, and we will share all of that out with everybody. Just leaves me to say a massive thank you to Judith, Alison, Lucy and Kathy for coming and bringing some energy around this, and some fantastic presentations around what they're doing, what we can do, how we can get involved, allowing us then to go on and make these pledges that we'll share afterwards. And thanks for everybody to come along, and we've got an international audience here tonight, which is fantastic. And the way that we can connect, and the borders or the distance really don't matter. We're all fighting the same causes, and we're all having to look after each other in the same way while we're doing that. So fantastic session tonight. Just to quickly say that our next session is on the 15th of June. It is around natural-based climate solutions. So we're going to have some great talks around that, and the way that we can find actions and solutions that nature already provides us, which will go out in the same way. So we'll make sure everybody gets the information for that and can see that coming through. So I think at 1 minute to 9, unless anyone else has got anything else they want to add or say, big thank you, and hope to see you all soon. Good night.
Thanks,
everyone.
Pete. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for coming. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Kathy.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Kathy, thank you very much for putting Words from the Wild as a blog, because I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm ever so pleased, Debbie. Yeah, I'm pleased.
And because I think Ivana put me in touch with Emma. And
yes.
I didn't always do it, and sometimes I thought it was crazy, but it's a lovely thing to have stuff to look out for sometimes when you're walking.
Yeah.
Or to reflect afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's
Debbie.
really nice.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that. Are you local? Are you in York, Debbie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, marvelous. Pop
Yeah.
into St. Nick's and have a little natter stuff going on. Words from the Wild is there, it is a group. So if you're interested, drop me an email and we can pick this up and natter more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All the very best. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
You still with us, Debbie? Who can say? Sorry about that, guys. I can't believe the timing of that. As soon as I started speaking, Charlie woke up.
Do you want to turn the recording off, Al?
Oh yeah, good.